Hello, my name is Hugh Patterson. I'm presenting from Archive to Citation, where I'm building on pre-existing work on the Trumpso recommendations for data citation, which takes a look at how authors should format the references and citations towards data in their publications. And that in general acknowledges a need for these references that Simons and Bird point out in their well-cited 2003 article. So in this diagram, I represent that as the Trumpso as A, and the formats that we use in our publications, and B as the acknowledgement that we need to cite and reference items in collections and archives. And then, so I situate my presentation today in the context of how do we get bibliographic metadata out of archives and into reference managers. A common open source tool would be Zotero, and authors then use these tools like Zotero to format the references and citations in their authored works. So I see this as a cyclical cycle of metadata usage and pointing and referencing. So that's the context for my approach today. So what I wanted to do was look at Zotero, and I chose 5 archives: Paradisic and the Language and Culture Archives at SIL, and ELAR at SOAS in England. Pangloss is a collection started at Licito in France, in Paris. It has 2 user interfaces and is essentially built on top of a national infrastructure of Cocoon and Kaipoloahone in the University of Hawaii. So I went to each of these and I looked at several different types of records. I looked at collection records for an entire collection, and then collections are generally aligned to an item. And then I looked at the item record, and in different organizations and different archives, items may be one artifact or maybe hundreds of artifacts. So the exact trees of organization are not the same across archives, even if the hierarchical structures are similar in appearance when you draw them out. What they actually have inside of them differs. So Zotero has a couple ways of importing bibliographic metadata. It can import from a standard file format like RAS or BibTeX or mods, and a couple of others. And it also has a way of importing metadata via a DOI API or through embedded metadata. So I'm going to just present my results in the beginning here. And basically, I looked at these 3 import methods to Zotero with the general understanding that we would move, if we can get the metadata, the bibliographic metadata into Zotero, then authors can use that to formulate well-created citations and references in a variety of style sheets, fulfilling the informatic needs of the Trumpso recommendations, regardless of which sort of style sheet they use. So I looked at Paradisic, and they have DOIs on their collections and their items, but items may contain several hundred objects. And when I limited my research to just engaging with the web pages that one could engage with without logging in, so open access according to the 2016 definition of open access, then individual artifacts don't have DOIs. And I understand from Nick that Paradisic is doing some of their web presentations, and that may change in the future. ELAR, when I talked with Mandana about on an earlier version of this paper, she also said that ELAR is changing to a WordPress front end and should release that later this month, being February 2021. Currently, ELAR uses ViewFind, so that's why there's 2 lines there. So Pangloss has the 2 organizations, and so that's why, and 2 user interfaces, that's why there's 2 lines there. Of the archives that I reviewed, only Pangloss has DOIs and Paradisic has DOIs, and they both are on the items and the collections. Pangloss generally only has 1 artifact per item, whereas Paradisic might have many. An exception to the Pangloss thing would be when they have a transcription of an audio file. They put the transcription and the audio file under the same item, but they are individual objects and they're related with metadata, etc., with relational metadata. So we can't use DOIs with the SIL Language Archive or University of Hawaii or ELAR because the archives don't use that technology. Embedded metadata, Paradisic didn't have any embedded metadata in their HTML headers. But it did, the Zotero did detect the DOIs and then grabbed the information from the DOI source repository, which would in this case be DataCite. The UnAPI is a method that Zotero uses to find metadata that's not exactly in the HTML code, but on the server somewhere else. So the Cocoon interface used that, and they have some Dublin Core metadata tags in the HTML header. Pangloss, and this is the interface managed by the Swift campus, does not have metadata embedded in the headers, but it does use some DOI detection, and it pulls metadata from DataCite. The SIL Language Archive has none, doesn't use embedded metadata for the metadata of the objects. It has embedded metadata for the web page and for like Twitter and things like that. So ELAR and the ViewFind uses a technology called contextual objects in spans, which is a way of embedding some metadata in span elements, and Zotero reads that, but that is mostly for journal articles, books, book section, and is related to the open URL specification for finding things in libraries, and it comes from the ViewFind software. But most of the objects in a language archive are not books and traditional print objects, so it doesn't serve the content type very well. The new interface that I was privileged to view doesn't have any of the metadata embedded in it for the rich bibliographic content that is needed for citation and referencing. Now, Kaipilahone does have metadata tags, the Dublin Core metadata tags. It's built, the archive uses the DSpace software. I think it's like version 5.3 right now that they've deployed. It has some, and so when it has those, some of the metadata will be imported. Doesn't mean it's without a problem, but that's where it is. File-based import. So could I download like a BibTeX file or something like that from the website with the bibliographic or some bibliographic metadata in it? And only Pangloss let me do that. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like inside of Zotero. let's see, here's Zotero, and if we go to look at Paradisic, we can go down here and find the URL, and this is on a collection. And this is the Roger Blench Congo Fields Materials collection, according to the title here in Nabu in the web interface. So we put the DOI in here, and it queries the DataCite API, and it gives us a different name and a different date. So it tells us that the publisher is Paradisic. It does not import it as a collection. There's a variety of item types there. It imports it as a journal. So an author will still need to do some work to fix their records so that they are referencing and citing things with the right formats, with whichever file or style sheet they choose to use. This is a Paradisic item. It's in the same collection as the collection record we looked at. And it's basically going to have the same kinds of issues, though the date is correct here and the author has changed to Zach Yoder, who's the primary contributor according to the records at Paradisic. If we look at Cocoon, so I could show you the other way. So the way here was, this is the collection. The button on the top right was my Zotero import. Here, I'll just run through that one. Click the button, you get the pop-up screen on this particular web page, and then you say, which items do I want? And then it pulls it in. And it's this top one. And it's the same metadata because it's that little screen is going out to the DOI and getting the metadata from there. So this is the collection at Cocoon. And if I import it to Zotero, this is using the UnAPI, and the collection, it imports as a document. Let's see here. It didn't import it right then and there. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Maybe I just refresh it and we'll see if it imports it now. I ran through this, yeah, right here it is. So collection descriptions are there in notes fields. The document is the generic one. And yeah. So we can go into now, this is an object inside of that, and we could use the DOI. And I believe it's going to import this object as a audio. Let's see if it does or not, because this object is a audio recording. I can't find it. So sometimes we get to the situation where the DOIs are not registered with DataCite, which happens. So let's try and that's why it's good to have multiple methods for researchers to grab the metadata. So notice the microphone up in the right corner there, the right hand side. And let's see if it comes in here. We'll refresh the web page, and then I had previously tried to record this and it needs to refresh so that it connects to the Zotero. All right, so it imported this as an audio recording, which is the type of object that it's referencing. And you can see that it brought in a significant amount of metadata for citing. It might not be everything because we might need the running time, and we might have to go get that as well. This is the Pangloss collection. And when you click this one of these buttons is for the transcription, and one is for the audio object. It should import both of those. And this is my time. It imports one as an article and one as a audio object. So thank you for letting me share, and wish you all the best. And I anticipate some questions and comments and love to hear from you.